Hi everyone, welcome to today's tutorial on programming a microbit to become a die. So you can either have a physical microbit that I'll show you part of this video on transferring your program to, or you can use the virtual option on the website where you can still do everything that the microbit can do, or will be able to do with the dice, but just on your screen instead of on the microbit. So the first step is to go to the website to program this. If you choose makecode.com and hit enter, you're going to choose microbit on the left-hand side. And once we're here, this is the Make Code microbit page. Any projects that you may have programmed before will show up here. And there are some tutorials and other things here, but we're going to get into a new project. So let's do this. I'm going to call this dice. Dice, sure. Now, if you think about a die, when you're rolling it, it's picking a number that's randomly chosen between 1 and 6. And if you think about a dice, you're rolling, but we can try mimic that with the idea of shaking it. So instead of these two blocks that default at the beginning of your program, every time you open a new program, it'll choose on start. It'll start with an on start block and then forever block. But we're not going to use those. We're just going to drag those back. And instead, we're going to choose the shake input. So if you choose the input block category and select on shake, this will be the block that we're going to work with here. The next thing we have to do is create a variable. A variable is something that we are going to add to this program, and we're going to make one, and we'll call it our number. The number will be a variable depending on what happens. In this case, it'll be what happens when it shakes. So after you make a variable, you get a couple blocks, and we're going to use these in our program. So on shake. So think about when we shake, we're going to have our variable, and we're going to set a number to that variable, but not a direct number. We want to have it pick a random number. So that random block is under math. So if you choose the math block, there is, if you scroll down a little bit, there's a pick random between 0 and 10. And we're going to drag that in, and see that little red dot to the left-hand side? If you drag it in from the right into where that 0 is, you'll notice that it magnetizes or nests in. That's because it fits. Now we're on shake, we're going to set a number between 0 and 10. You can try that out by clicking on the shake here. Oh, we didn't show it, that's right. If you wanted to show the number, you can actually click on basic and show number. But in this case, we're actually going to do a couple extra things here. So we're going to set the number to between 0 and 10, but not 0 and 10. We need it to be between 1 and 6. So let's change those. So I'll pick the first number between 1 and 6. Enter. So now the first level of this program would be to show this number, and then our program would actually be complete. So to show this number, we're going to go to the basic block, and we're going to show a number, and we're going to snap that in right below the number part, the set number block. But instead of showing a number, an actual number, we're going to go to our variables and drag in our number variable into that second little bubble here. So our program now is set a number when it shakes between 1 and 6, and then we want it to show that number. So let's go over here to the virtual emulator here. And if we click on shake, which is going to be mimicking the shake if you were to actually shake a microbit. All right, so there's a 6. If I shake it again, 2, and 5. So technically, if you had a die that had numbers on it as opposed to dots, our program would now be complete. So the second part of this program, if you want to take it further, is to actually mimic the die, to actually show the dots. So instead of showing the number, we're going to actually take this out. And we're going to throw in some conditions here. So conditions are under the logic group. And then we're going to actually drag in the second block. So if something is true, then we want something to display. So in this case, if it is a 1, we want to show it a 1 dot right in the middle. And then we're going to add 6 conditions so that it looks like a real die. So drag that into this block right here. And we're going to add, so we have 1, 2, 3. So I use this little plus symbol right here, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then one more is 6. So now we have 6 conditions, or I guess 5 conditions and then an else statement. So I'll get to that in a second. So notice that the shapes are a little bit different here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our logic block. And if we go to this first block right here, we're going to compare what the answer is. So if we drag the first comparison block, we're going to bring that into if this is true, then. So now if we go back, so what are we trying to compare here? We're going to compare our number variable, which we've created right here in the first line. So if that number, so we're going to go grab that number variable from the bubble here. If that number is equal to 1, then we're going to display the screen of the microbit, and we're just going to have it display a dot right in the middle. So let's go back up to the basic block area, and we're going to show LEDs. So every one of these little every one of these dots on a microbit is actually called an LED. So we're going to actually bring that in to the first condition. Oops, we're going to snap it in there. And we're just going to put a dot right there. So if you can kind of see where we're going with this, we're going to do this. We're going to repeat this step over and over again until we get to the end. So I'm just going to pause the video, give you a second, and I'll show you my screen when I have my program finished. Okay, so coming back to the program to kind of give you a second, and you can pause this video at any point if you needed to catch up. But what I've done is I've repeated that step. I've taken that comparison block from the logic and put it into each one of those conditions. So if you're thinking about this program, if it's a 1, then this. But if it's not, it's going to go to the next line. Else if means that if it's not 1, it's something else. So else if it's a 2, then I grabbed the show LEDs and just selected the dots to try and mimic that die. And then I did the same thing for 3, 4, and 5. So, but there's no condition at the end here. So what happens is if it is a 6, it's going to run through the first 5 conditions. And if it's neither of those conditions, then else what's left? Well, it's just a 6. So we're going to bring that into our program here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there you have it. This is a virtual die. So now we can actually take this out and actually scroll up here. I'm going to shake it, see what happens. Okay, so 3, 1, 1, 2, 4, 6, 3, 5. So it's actually working just like we need it to. The last step is if you actually do have a microbit, this is where I'm going to show you how to send this code to your microbit so we can actually see what it looks like. So if I were to plug in my microbit and, let's see here. If you're plugged in, it'll fire up a red dot at the back here and some orange lights just to show you that it has power. Now, if I go to the download here, or you can either download it to your computer or you can actually connect it to a microbit and it'll actually automatically download to the microbit for you every time you save. So I'm going to connect to a microbit or click download. Oh, it looks like it already connected to a microbit because it remembered my microbit from last time. So let's download it and see what happens. And it should do some thinking here. So it is downloaded. So now if I were to shake this microbit, it actually I don't have power. I wish I would have brought my power cord, sorry. But if you were to shake it, it'll actually be a dice. So there's a lot of options you can do with this. If you actually plugged in the power battery pack to these, you can actually play some really cool games in math in terms of probability. There's a game called Skunk, which is really cool too. So if you look that up, teachers, you can actually play a game with Skunk with 2 microbits at the front. Every student can have one. There you have it. There's a great quick little tutorial on programming a dice using a microbit. Thanks.